How do you get a 4-meter long SSL console into a studio? If you ever wondered how that process goes, you might want to keep watching. And we start this video off in an empty control room where no console has been for a couple of months at this point. We are getting an SSL console in. In the middle, there is like a couple of wheels, and then we lift it up onto those boxes, onto the plateau. Then we need to rearrange those boxes to create a new plateau, and we are able to close the door. And then over here onto the boxes, lower it down, and we are where we are supposed to be. Here Mark is pumping up the jam, the console, to get it into the right place. And those boxes that are coming in now hold half of the module, so it's 8 channels per box. Over there in the hallway you can see the entire rack with all the power supplies coming in. They don't go into this room because we had a separate dedicated machine room for that, of course. We need to figure out some stuff with the patch and all the cables that go underneath the floor there on the right side of the console to make sure that everything still fits. And then after all the trim is installed onto the console, it is time to add the VU meters. Yes, they go per bucket. So here you see Anthony install it on the patch and then in the center section, and then every bucket has its own panel with 8 VU meters corresponding to that bucket's 8 channels. It is time for the channels. We're starting right at the beginning of the desk with channel 1, then we're getting channel 2, and with every channel he does, he stands still for a little bit because there is a ribbon connector that goes to the fader. They need to make sure that the fader and the actual channel are corresponding with each other and are actually doing what they need to do together. And then it is time for the second half of the desk. We took out 8 channels. It was a 40 channel console before this, but to make room for that center section rack in the middle of the desk, we had to take out 8 channels. With its 32 channels now, it was actually a perfect size for this studio, and I never actually missed those last 8 channels on day-to-day sessions. We've got our SSL back in the studio again, but you don't know if it's done yet if you haven't powered her up yet. So that's the next thing we are going to do right now, and she fires up perfectly. The final thing we needed to check is if the computer of the SSL console actually connected to that monitor in the wall. So I needed to get that screen out of there and check all the connections on the back. And there we have a recall screen. And then you can actually see all of the knobs on the console. If everything is set up the way it should be. The SSL was back in the control room and we are good to go and run our first session.